Text 61. Tani sarvani samyamya yukta asita matpara vashe yasya indriyani tasya pragya pratishtita. Tani, those senses, sarvani, all, samyamya, keeping under control, yukta, engaged, asita, should be situated, matpara, in relationship with me, vashe, in full subjugation. He certainly, yasya, one whose indriyani, senses, tasya, his pragya, consciousness, pratisthita, fixed. Translation: one who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his consciousness upon me is known as a man of steady intelligence. Purport: that the highest conception of yoga perfection is Krishna consciousness is clearly explained in this verse. And unless one is Krishna conscious, it is not at all possible to control the senses, as cited above. The great sage Durvasa Muni picked a quarrel with Maharaj Ambarish, and Durvasa Muni unnecessarily became angry out of pride and therefore could not check his senses. On the other hand, the king, although not as powerful a yogi as the sage, but a devotee of the Lord, silently observed all the sages' injustices and thereby emerged victorious. The king was able to control his senses because of the following qualifications as mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th canto, 4th chapter, 18 to 20. Savai mana Krishna padaravindayo vachansi vaikunta gunanuvarnane karo harer mandira marjanadishu shrutim chakarachyuta satkatodaye मुकुन्दलिङ्गालय दर्शने दृशो तद्भृत्य गात्रा स्पर्शिङ्ग संगमं ग्रहाणां च तत्पाद सरोज सौरभे श्रीमत्तुलस्या रसनं तदर्पिते पादौ हरे क्षेत्र पादानुसर्पणे शिरो ऋषिकेश पदाभिवन्दने कामं च दास्ये न तु कामकाम्यया यतोत्तम श्लोक janashrayarati. King Ambarish fixed his mind on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, engaged his words in describing the abode of the Lord, his hands in cleansing the temple of the Lord, his ears in hearing the pastimes of the Lord, his eyes in seeing the form of the Lord, his body in touching the body of the devotees, his nostrils in smelling the flavor of the flowers offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, his tongue in tasting the tulasi leaves offered to him, his legs in traveling to the holy place where his temple is situated, his head in offering obeisances unto the Lord, and his desires in fulfilling the desires of the Lord. And all these qualifications made him fit to become a Matpara devotee of the Lord. The word Matpara is most significant in this connection. How can one become Matpara is described in the life of Maharaj Ambarish. Sri Baldev Vidyabhushan, a great scholar and acharya, in the line of Matpara remarks, Mad Bhakti Prabhavena Sarvendriya Vijaya Purvika Swatma Drishti Sulabheti Bhava. The senses can be completely controlled only by the strength of devoted service to Krishna. Also, the example of fire is sometimes given. As a blazing fire burns everything within a room, Lord Vishnu, situated in the heart of yogi, burns up all kinds of impurities. The Yoga Sutra also prescribes meditation on Vishnu and not meditation on the void. The so-called yogis who meditate on something other than Vishnu simply waste their time in a vain search after some phantasmagoria. We have to be Krishna conscious, devoted to the personality of Godhead. This is the aim of real yoga. Dhyayato, text 62. Dhyayato vishayan pumsa sangashte shupajayate sanga sanjayate kama krodho vijayate. Dhyayata, while contemplating vishayan, sense objects, pumsa, of a person, sanga, attachment, teshu, in the sense objects, upajayate, develops, sangat, from attachment, sanjayate, develops, kama, desire, kamat, from desire, krodha, anger, abhijayate, becomes manifest. Translation: while contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment lust develops, and from lust anger arises. Purport: one who is not Krishna conscious is subjected to material miseries while contemplating the objects of the senses. The senses require real engagements, and if they are not engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, they will certainly seek engagement in the service of materialism. In the material world, everyone, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to say nothing of the other demigods in the heavenly planets, is subjected to the influence of sense objects, and the only method to get out of this puzzle of material existence is to become Krishna conscious. Lord Shiva also was deep in meditation, but when Parvati agitated him for sense pleasure, he agreed to the proposal, and as a result Kartikeya was born. When Haridas Thakur was a young devotee of the Lord, he was similarly allured by the incarnation of Maya Devi, but Haridas easily passed the test because of his unalloyed devotion to Lord Krishna, as illustrated in the above mentioned verse of Shremunacharya. A sincere devotee of the Lord shuns all material sense enjoyment due to his higher taste for spiritual enjoyment in the association of the Lord. That is the secret of success. One who is not therefore Krishna consciousness, however powerful he may be in controlling the senses, by artificial repression, is sure ultimately to fail, for the slightest thought of sense pleasure will agitate him to gratify his desires. Text 463. Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammoha smriti vibhrama, smriti bhamshat buddhinasho, buddhinashat pranashyati. Krodhat from anger, bhavati takes place, sammohat perfect illusion, sammohat from illusion, smriti of memory, vibhrama bewilderment, smriti bhamshat after bewilderment of memory, buddhinasha loss of intelligence, buddhinashat from the loss of intelligence, pranashyati one who falls down. Translation: from anger complete delusion arises, and from delusion bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. Sri Rupa Goswami has given us this direction. Prapanchikatya buddhya hari sambandhi vastu namukshavi parityago vairagyam falgukatyate. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. By development of Krishna consciousness, one can know that everything has its use in the service of the Lord. Those who are without knowledge of Krishna consciousness artificially try to avoid material objects, and as a result, although they desire liberation from material bondage, they do not attain to the perfectional stage of renunciation. Their so-called renunciation is called falgu, or less important. On the other hand, a person in Krishna consciousness knows how to use everything in the service of the Lord. Therefore, he does not become a victim of material consciousness. For example, for an impersonalist, the Lord or the absolute being impersonal cannot eat, whereas an impersonalist tries to avoid good eatables. A devotee knows that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer and that he eats all that is offered to him in devotion. So, after offering good eatables to the Lord, the devotee takes the remnants called prasadam. Thus, everything becomes spiritualized and there is no danger of a downfall. The devotee takes prasadam in Krishna consciousness, whereas the non-devotee rejects it as material. The impersonalist therefore cannot enjoy life due to his artificial renunciation, and for this reason a slight agitation of the mind pulls him down again into the pool of material existence. It is said that such a soul, even though rising up to the point of liberation, falls again due to his not having support in devotion service. Raga dvesho vimuktaistu vishayanindriyescharan atma visher videyatma prasadam rachati. Raga attachment, dvesha detachment, vimuktahai by one who has become free from. Two, but Vishayan, sense objects, Indriya by the senses, Charan acting upon Atma Vashay under one's control. Videya Atma, one who follows regulated freedom, Prasadam, the mercy of the Lord. Adhigachati attains. Translation: but a person free from all attachment and aversion and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. It is already explained that one may externally control the senses by some artificial process, but unless the senses are engaged in transcendental service of the Lord, there is every chance of a fall. Although the person in full Krishna consciousness may apparently be on the sensual plane because of his being Krishna conscious, he has no attachment to sensual activities. The Krishna conscious person is concerned only with the satisfaction of Krishna and nothing else. Therefore, he is transcendental to all attachment and detachment. If Krishna wants, the devotee can do anything which is ordinarily undesirable, and Krishna does not want, he shall not do that which he would have ordinarily done for his own satisfaction. Therefore, to act or not to act within his control is within his control because he acts only under the direction of Krishna. This consciousness is the causeless mercy of the Lord which the devotee can achieve in spite of his being attached to the sensual platform. Text 65. Prasade sarva dukkanam hanir asyopajayate prasanna chetoso yashu buddhir paryavatishtate. Prasade, on achievement of the causeless mercy of the Lord, sarva of all dukkana material miseries, hani destruction, asya his, upajayate takes place, prasanna Chetasa of the happy-minded, he certainly, Ashu very soon, Buddhi, intelligence, Pari, sufficiently, Avatishtati becomes established. For translation. For one thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established. Text 66. Nasti buddhira yuktasya nacha yuktasya bhavana nacha bhaveta shantir ashantasya kutasukam. Na asti, there cannot be buddhi, transcendental intelligence. Ayuktasya, one who is not connected with Krishna consciousness. Na, not cha, and ayuktasya, one devoid of Krishna consciousness. Bhavana, fixed mind in happiness. Na, not cha, and abhavayata, one who is not fixed. Shanti, peace. Ashantasya, of the unpeaceful. Kutaha, where is sukham, happiness. Translation: one who is not connected with the Supreme Krishna consciousness can neither have transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any peace without happiness? How can there be any happiness without peace? Unless one is Krishna conscious and one is in Krishna consciousness, there is no possibility of peace. So it is confirmed in the 5th chapter, 5.29, that when one understands that Krishna is the only enjoyer of all the good results of sacrifice and penance, and that he is the proprietor of all universal manifestations, and that he is the real friend of all living entities, then only one can have real peace. Therefore, if one is not in Krishna consciousness, there cannot be a final goal for the mind. Disturbance is due to the want of an ultimate goal, and when one is certain that Krishna is the enjoyer, proprietor, and friend of everyone and everything, then one can be, with a steady mind, bring about peace. Therefore, one who is engaged without a relationship with Krishna is certainly always in distress and is without peace, however much he may make a show of peace and spiritual advancement in life. Krishna consciousness is self-manifested peaceful condition which can be achieved only in relationship with Krishna. Text 67. Indriyanam hi charatam yanmano nirdiyate tadasya harti pragyam vayur navamivam vasi. Indriyanam, of the senses, he certainly charatam, while roaming, yet which my mana mind anuvidiyate becomes constantly engaged. That asya, his harati, takes away. Pragyam, intelligence. Vayu, wind. Navam, a boat. Iva, like ambasi, on the water. Translation: as a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses on can carry away man's intelligence. Purport: unless all of the senses are engaged in the service of the Lord, even one of them engaged in sense gratification can deviate from the devotee from the path of transcendental advancement. As mentioned in the life of Maharaj Ambarish, all of the senses must be engaged in Krishna consciousness, for that is the correct technique for controlling the mind. Text 68. Tasmadasya mahabaho nigrihitani sarvasha indriyanendriyatebhyastasya pragyavritishtita. Tasmad, therefore, asya whose mahabaho, almighty arm, one, nigritani, so curved down, sarvasha, all around, indriyani, the senses, indriyatebhya, from sense objects, tasya, his pragya, intelligence, pratishtita, fixed. Therefore, O mighty arm, one whose senses are restrained from their objects is certainly of steady intelligence. One can curb the forces of sense gratification only by means of Krishna consciousness, or engaging all the senses in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. As enemies are curbed by superior force, the senses can similarly be curbed, not by any human endeavor, but only by keeping them engaged in the service of the Lord. One who has understood this, that only by Krishna consciousness is one really established in intelligence, and that one should practice this art under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, is called a sadhaka, or a suitable candidate for liberation. Text 69. Ya nisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagrati samyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sa nisha pashyato mune. Ya, what nisha is night, sarva all, bhutanam of living entities, tasyam in that, jagrati is wakeful, samyami the self-control, yasyam in which, jagrati are awake, bhutani all beings, sa what that is, nisha night, pashyata for the introspective, mune sage. What is night for all living beings? For all beings is the time of awakening for self-control, and the time of awakening for all beings is the night for the introspective stage. There are two classes of intelligent man. One is intelligent in material activities for sense gratification, and the other is introspective and awake to the cultivation of self-realization. Activities of the introspective sage or thoughtful man are night for persons materially absorbed. Materialistic persons remain asleep in such a night due to their ignorance of self-realization. The introspective sage remains alert in the night of materialistic men. The sage feels transcendental pleasure in the gradual advancement of spiritual culture, whereas the man in materialistic activities, being asleep to self-realization, dreams of varieties of sense pleasure, feeling sometimes happy, sometimes distressed in a sleeping condition. The introspective man is always indifferent to materialistic happiness and distress. He goes on with his self-realization activities undisturbed by material reactions. Apuryamanam achala pratishtam samudramapa pravishanti yadvat tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sashantim apnoti na kama kami Apuryamanam, always being filled. Achala, Vishtam, steadily situated. Samudram, the ocean. Apaha, waters. Pravishanti, enter. Yadvad, yes, Tadvad, Kama, desires. Yam, unto whom Pravishanti, enter. Sarve, all. Saha, that person. Shantim, peace. Apnoti, achieves. Na, not. Kama, Kami, one who desires to fulfill desires. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. Although the vast ocean is always filled with water, it is always, especially during the rainy season, being filled with much more water. But the ocean remains the same, steady. It is not agitated, nor does it cross beyond the limit of its brink. That is also true of a person fixed in Krishna consciousness. As long as one has the material body, the demands of the body for sense gratification will continue. The devotee, however, is not disturbed by such desires because he is of his fullness. A Krishna conscious man is not in need of anything because the Lord fulfills all his material necessities. Therefore, he is like the ocean, always full in himself. Desires may come to him like the waters of the rivers that flow into the ocean, but he is steady in his activities and is not even slightly disturbed by desires for sense gratification. That is the proof of a Krishna conscious man, one who has lost all inclinations for material sense gratification, although the desires are present. Because he remains satisfied in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he can remain steady like the ocean and therefore enjoy full peace. Others, however, who want to fulfill desires even up to the limit of liberation, what to speak of material success, never attain peace. The fruity workers, the salvationists, and also the yogis who are after mystic powers are all unhappy because of unfulfilled desires. But the person in Krishna consciousness is happy in the service of the Lord and he has no desires to be fulfilled. In fact, he does not even desire liberation from the so-called material bondage. The devotees of Krishna have no material desires and therefore they are in perfect peace. Text 71. Vihaya kaman yas sarvan pumam sharati nispriha nirmamo nirhankara sashantim adhigacchati. Vihaya, giving up, kaman, material desires for sense gratification, yaha, who, sarvan, all, puman, a person, charati, lives nispriha, desireless, nirmama, without a sense of proprietorship, nirahankara, without false ego, saha, he, shantim, perfect peace, adhigacchati, attains. Translation. A person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from the desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship and is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain real peace. To become desireless means not to desire anything for sense gratification. In other words, desire for becoming Krishna conscious is actually desirelessness. To understand one's actual position as the eternal servitor of Krishna without falsely claiming this material body to be oneself, without falsely claiming proprietorship over anything in this world, is a perfect stage of Krishna consciousness. One who is situated in this perfect stage knows that because Krishna is the proprietor of everything, everything must be used for the satisfaction of Krishna. Arjuna did not want to fight for his own sense satisfaction, but when he became fully Krishna conscious, he fought because Krishna wanted him to fight. For himself, there was no desire to fight, but for Krishna, the same Arjuna fought to his best ability. Real desirelessness is desire for the satisfaction of Krishna, not an artificial attempt to abolish desires. The living entity cannot be desireless or senseless, but he does have to change the quality of the desires. A materially desireless person certainly knows that everything belongs to Krishna. Ishavashyam idam sarvam, and therefore he does not falsely claim proprietorship over anything. This transcendental knowledge is based on self-realization, namely knowing perfectly well that every living entity is an eternal part and parcel of Krishna in spiritual identity, and that the eternal position of the living entity is therefore never on the level of Krishna or greater than him. This understanding of Krishna consciousness is the basic principle of real peace. Text 72. Esha brahmi sthiti partha nainam prapya vimuhyati sthitvasyamanta kalepi brahma nirvanam richati. Esha, this brahmi, spiritual sthiti, situation, partha, O son of Pritha, na, never, enam. This prapya, achieving, vimuhyati, one is bewildered, sthitva, being situated. Asyam, in this antakale, at the end of life, api, also, Brahma Nirvanam, the spiritual kingdom of God. Richati, one who attains. Translation. That is the way of spiritual and godly life, after attaining which a man is not bewildered. If one is thus situated even at the hour of death, one can enter into the kingdom of God. Purport: one can attain Krishna consciousness or divine life at once within a second, or one may not attain such a state of life even after millions of births. It is only a matter of understanding and accepting the fact. Katwanga Maharaj attained this state of life just a few minutes before his death by surrendering unto Krishna. Nirvana means ending the process of materialistic life according to the Buddhist philosophy. There is Nirvana means ending the process of materialistic life. According to Buddhist philosophy, there is only void after completion of this material life. But Bhagavad Gita teaches differently. Actual life begins after the completion of the material life. For the gross materialist, it is sufficient to know that one has to end this materialistic way of life. But for persons who are spiritually advanced, there is another life after this materialistic life. Before ending this life, if one fortunately becomes Krishna conscious, he at once attains the stage of Brahma Nirvana. There is no difference between kingdom of God and the devotional service of the Lord. Since both of them are on the absolute plane, to be engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord is to have attained the spiritual kingdom. In the material world, there are activities of sense gratification, whereas in the spiritual world, there are activities of Krishna consciousness. Attainment of Krishna consciousness even during this life is immediate attainment of Brahman, and one who is situated in Krishna consciousness has certainly already entered into the kingdom of God. Brahman is just the opposite of matter. Therefore, Brahmi Sthiti means not on the platform of material activities. Devotional service of the Lord is accepted in the Bhagavad Gita as a liberated state. Sagunan samadhyaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Therefore, Brahmi Sthiti is liberation from material bondage. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has summarized the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita as being the content for the whole text. In the Bhagavad Gita, the subject matters are Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. In the second chapter, Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga have been clearly discussed, and a glimpse of Bhakti Yoga has also been given as a contents for the complete text. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport to the second chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita and the matter of its contents.